What is good? What is good? What is really, really good? This is your boy Big Sin, and I am here with the very first Synful Blaq game review. We are going to start off with a banger here. We are starting off with one of the universally acclaimed titles that has dropped in a very long time. Now, go ahead and hit that intro there, intro man, for the game, and this is the game we're talking about right here. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you saw that, right? The very first game review is going to be for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, this game it's brilliant. I'm just going to start off by saying that, but I don't think it's as great and as flawless as people like to say it is. So, let's just break this down here. Okay, so what we got here, we have a remake that's 13 years. We've been waiting since it was announced. But also a remake from a game that many of us, our childhood was Final Fantasy VII. I was still in high school when that game came out. I remember calling Blockbuster Video like, hey, and this is before gaming was cool too. Hey, yeah, do you guys have any copies of Final Fantasy VII? I know it just came out. Do you guys have any copies available for it? Then the young lady on the phone was like, yeah, we got that. I was like, all right, cool. Can you hold this for, and gave my dad's name. So we go over to Blockbuster Video, go in. It just so happens, I'm like, yeah, I called about the Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1. You guys supposed to put it on hold for so-and-so. I'm on the account, so can I just grab that real quick? The girl who was working the counter just so happened to go to school with me. And she's like, oh, that was you, Phil? Yeah, that was me. I'm a gamer. You know, it is what it is. See, back then, gaming wasn't as cool and as socially acceptable as it is now. But I digress. So with things going swimmingly and get the game home, and it's 3 or 4 discs, I can't remember, I think it's 4, but disc 1 took me through Midgard, and then you had to switch to this and that. You know, back then, gaming was a challenge, because you actually had to open up the PlayStation while it was still running, throw in the next disc, do this and that, whatever. But now here we are, it's the year 2020. And gaming is now socially recognized as one of the best things in the world. Not only that, there's also a study about gaming addiction. Now, if you feel you're gaming, if you put gaming ahead of everything else in your life, including a job, I suggest you go and seek help. But I'm not going to judge you, because gaming is my muse. It helps me relax. But anyway, let's get back to why you're here. My review of this game. All right, so starters, this game brought to life everything that was in my imagination as a child, because most of the Final Fantasy VII game was taken from an upper camera shot. It was still beautiful to look at. It was very gorgeous to look at. But now you're here. You are actually walking down these streets. There are things to the side. There are shops to explore, people to interact with, and stuff like that. You hear distance. You hear conversations by just walking next to people. You can just hear what they're talking about, and they're all anti-Biggs and organization. Avalanche. They're all anti-Avalanche. A lot of them. Avalanche is being billed as terrorists. And so game opens up. It's that iconic going to the reactor. But there's something different here. And what that is this is not a turn-based RPG like the original Final Fantasy VII. I know some people liked it, some people didn't. Some people were mad that they changed the core gaming aspect. I was not. I enjoy action RPGs. Kingdom Hearts comes to mind. Anything like that, I thoroughly enjoy. Dragon's Quest, I thoroughly enjoy those games. But here we have Cloud Strife in all his glory, hopping off the train, taking out soldiers, running. You know, Barrett has an attitude because he doesn't trust Cloud yet. If you're a fan, I'm sorry. I live in Vegas. It's hot as shit out here. Anyway, Biggs, Jesse, Wedge. These are all characters who you meet in this intro who are never fully fleshed out during the original game. But as you move on, you go to the reactor, you blow up the reactor, you fight the Scorpion in what is one of the best opening fights I have ever played. I played the demo and enjoyed it very much. Then getting into this fight, I knew what was coming and I was fucking excited. So we get back down into it. We take out the Scorpion. Scorpion shoots a laser. Shit starts blowing up. You have your little timer to get out of there. Jesse's flirting with you on the way out, doing this and that. So we head back. They chop on the train. Cloud gets caught up by some soldiers. This, that, and the other. You meet Aerith. You do this, that. She gives you a flower. All right. So from here, the gameplay is set out as action RPG. Fast-paced. We're going to start building up these characters like you didn't get to experience the first time. People were mad when this game announced, oh, it's only going to take place between the time that you go into the reactor to when you leave Midgard. That's what this whole remake is going to be. And some people look at that like, that's only the first disc. That's only like 7 hours of the game if you're just playing strictly story. So they had to take some liberties and actually added a whole lot of character development to turn this into a 30 to 40 hour, depending on the mode you play, depending on how you play and how much you explore. 30 to 40 hour first disc of Final Fantasy VII. Now this explains fleshed out versions of Jesse, kind of Biggs, Wedge and his cats. You learn about Marlene, of course, Aerith's mom. You got all this stuff going on. Barrett still don't like you. He still don't trust you because he knows you're an ex-soldier. You got that crystal blue eye, and he's just always looking at you like, so this dude gonna turn on us. Fuck him. But then they added an interesting element to this by the way of, I ended up just calling them the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. Like they just made a guest appearance as ghosts flying around. Not Final Fantasy VII ghosts, just they look like Dementors, or Dementors from Harry Potter, when they were trying to suck people's faces off. Yeah, that's what they look like. But so now I'm going to say, I thoroughly loved my time with this game. At least 97% of this game. How you get a game, in my opinion, 97% perfect, and then you fuck it up towards the end, in my opinion, that's something to behold. So the first 16 chapters are fantastic. You have an awesome motorcycle fight. You accompany Jesse, and you have another boss fight. You get Ifri, and the summons in this game work a different way than they were. They don't just come down, do one attack, and bounce. They come down, they fight, and if the character who is using the summon dies, then the summon will release its ultimate power, do its final thing, and bounce. Or you can actually control the summons and what they do, because like the other characters, you can, yes, they're free flow combat, but you can tell them to do certain things. Like if you want Barrett to shoot some lightning magic or something, or you want someone to heal you, you're not at the mercy of hoping they do it, or switching to the character and doing it yourself. The characters will help you out a lot. Unlike Donald in Kingdom Hearts, they will actually heal you before you die, and not when you actually heal yourself. Anyway, I digress into saying 97% of this game was amazing. I would have been happier if they would have ended it after Chapter 16, where you fight the owner of Shinra's son, and what is a decent fight with his dog. His name escapes me right now, and I apologize for that. But then the game takes a weird turn. So Chapter 17, in my opinion, is the worst chapter of this game. And also, it almost, well, it did drop my rating for the game overall, but it almost made me start to dislike the game. It was a slog to get through. It was unnecessary to say for people who played the original. Then I get reminded by people, well, this is a remake, not a remaster. This is a remake, not, yes, I know. But there are certain liberties that this remake took that were not accepted by a lot of the old school hardcore Final Fantasy VII people. For instance, this Chapter 17 motorcycle fight. It's repetitive, it's annoying, it's hard to control. The camera does not want to work with you. There are times where the camera just zooms in really close and you can't even see where the hell the enemy is doing. There are times, if this was done on purpose by the manufacturer, hey, that's fucked up. But if not, it was a very bad lapse of judgment with the free flow camera system that you wanted to have in this game. Chapter 17 I hated. And then, finally got to the end, and it's like, all right, here's a bench, because they don't have the save points no more. It saves when you finish a chapter, when you finish a big fight, stuff like that. Like all games nowadays have that auto-save function that just saves it with every fucking second. But, so you get past this road part, this motorcycle part, which was horrible, terrible fucking gameplay. You get past that, then there's a bench and a vending machine, so you can go buy your potions for what you think is the final battle with Sephiroth. I have to show you guys. So earlier you heard me mention the Heartless. I did not know they were so prevalent in this Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it comes to make sense now that I realize the guy who made this is the guy who did Kingdom Hearts 3 and kind of had a shaky ending to that game. So let me show you this real quick. This is part of the Chapter 18 fight. I call them Heartless. He looks like a Heartless. He looks like he does not belong in Final Fantasy VII. And, I mean, the character, the enemy design is fucking cool. These guys are really annoying because you go through 6 phases against 3 of these motherfuckers. And they keep rehealing, or their giant one, which I think this is a picture of, the giant one will heal them and reset the fight. You go through this 6 times, over and over and over again. About the 5th one, they turn into a Bahamut. Bahamut, as many people know from the other Final Fantasy games, they combine into Bahamut and you fight Bahamut. This is probably the hardest of the 6 battles, due to the fact that, like when Bahamut's summoned, he can kill you in 1 hit if he feels like it. The key to this fight is just keep the pressure on, get him down low enough to have your summon, one of your summons come in and perform that final attack. And then after you beat Bahamut, then you have to beat all 3 of them again. So it's very repetitive, very annoying. But it is what it is. Bar for course for this game in particular. So I have a question now. So say, in my opinion, brought the Heartless into this game, if they remake Final Fantasy VIII or any other Final Fantasy, are we going to see people like, just off the top of my head here, Jack Skellington pop up? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it because Jack Skellington is fucking awesome. But how about this? How about they do a remake of Final Fantasy VIII, and as you're going through something with Squall, all of a sudden this motherfucker here pops up. Yeah, that is Stinky Pete from Kingdom Hearts fame. But I'm just messing around here. I do hope that when the second remake comes out, it's good. So let's talk about the ending of this game. The game's been out long enough, so I don't care about spoiling anything for you. You fight Sephiroth after you've done battled the Heartless. You know, dismantled the Heartless and took off. There's not even a point. The game does not save. Sephiroth jumps right the fuck in, and you guys start your battle. Now, I struggled with this battle a couple of rounds, and I talked to a friend of mine, and he's like, dude, just hold the block button the whole time. What the fuck you talking about? Yeah, just hold the block button. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to just hold the block button and see what happens. What happened was, I beat Sephiroth without much of a challenge. So there's 3 or 4 phases of Sephiroth, including the one-winged angel. Um, each phase doing something a little different from the first. I had to heal a lot during my first when it's just Cloud versus Sephiroth because for some reason he wouldn't physically attack me. He just kept on setting me on fire and doing all these elemental attacks. Then I got him to start attacking me with physical attacks, and my friend was right. You hold down the block button and it automatically counters and it chips away his health. Then you get an RNG selects a character to join you next. I was lucky enough to get Aerith, so there's my healer. And then you two fight Sephiroth, and then another little small cutscene happens, and RNG again sends in the third fighter, which, again, I got very lucky, and I got Barret. Because my Barret had Steel Skin, Lifesaver, and all the shit that will make Sephiroth just attack him. So I was able to deal with Sephiroth a lot easier than probably should have been, but I digress because back in the one attack, that system, Sephiroth was a bitch. He was very tough, especially when he got to the one-winged angel phase of the fight. But so you beat Sephiroth, and you're like, okay, that was a little underwhelming. And we all know that there's going to be a second part of the remake coming out, hopefully sooner, a lot quicker than the 13 years it took us to get this one. Then you get the ending cinematic, where the guy who brought Cloud, what was his name? I can't remember his name offhand, but you find out that, well, you see Aerith, Barret, and them walking away, and a vision of the past walks by them. The guy carrying Cloud, I cannot remember his name, and like again, I apologize, it's been a few months since I beat the game. I meant to do this review a long time ago, but I never really got the time to actually sit down and record the video, so here it is now. So you have to deal with my forgetting a few things. So then you see Biggs in a hospital bed. Biggs is still alive. Wedge is still alive. And rumors are Jesse is still alive. Yeah, they should all be dead. Or dismembered, or just not anywhere around anymore. But this leaves you with a lot of questions, especially for the people who played this a long time ago. Okay, now for my ratings for everything. If you are new to Final Fantasy VII, this was the first Final Fantasy VII game you played. If you did not play the original, you are absolutely going to love this. This is going to be a 10 out of 10 for you. Graphics, beautiful. Gameplay, beautiful. Control, great. Boss fights, cutscenes, everything. It is the total package if you are new to this game. But those of us like myself who have played through the original a couple of times and beat it a few times, this game kind of falls flat after Chapter 16. Like I said, 97% was fantastic. Gameplay here, I'm going to give gameplay a 5 out of 5. The fighting is good. Well, you know what? I'm going to knock that back to a 4 out of 5 because of the motorcycle levels. Motorcycle levels weren't there, it would have been perfect. The haunted house level in the arena is fucking awesome. It's annoying as shit, but it's a fun fight. Then every time you fight like Rude and Reno and those guys, those fights are always fun. The Sephiroth fight was cool until I learned all you had to do was block. And there's some countdown that Sephiroth doing. It's like 3, 2, well, I guess we're going to find out in Remake 2. But graphics, 5 out of 5. This game is gorgeous. It, until recently, held my top spot to the best graphics on the PlayStation 4 of this generation. Since then, Ghost of Tsushima has taken that top spot because that game is utterly brilliant and beautiful. And there will be a review for that when I finish the game. But Aerith's house, oh my god, that shit gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh my god, it is just a gorgeous game to look at. Story, I would give it a 4 out of 5 also, just like the controls, because those last 2 chapters were fucking horrible. Yes, there was a grindy bit earlier in the game, I think chapter 3 or 4, somewhere around there. But chapter 17, basically, in parts of chapter 16, excuse me, basically went against everything the game was trying to teach you. So, overall, I'm going to give this game a 8.5 out of 10. The replayability for me is low. I will replay it though once we have a release date for Remake 2, just so I can refresh everything in my mind, and maybe I could have a better experience. But at the time that I beat the game, I was admittedly comparing it to the original game. But with that being said, my name is Big. So like I said, overall 8.5 out of 10. Not horrible. Not the best game I ever played. It was fun, and I appreciate the effort they put in, but I hope they fix some of what they damaged, because they basically said, fuck the original and we're doing our own thing now. Which is fine, if that's what you want it to be. So, anyway, thank you for joining me here on this review of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I am Big Sin, and I am out this bitch. Deuces.